My 32M wife, 30F, of 4 years, threw our life away for a wealthy client. I spent 8 months playing the oblivious husband to orchestrate a trap that destroyed her career, bankrupted her affair partner, and left me with everything. A complete masterclass in vengeance. Part 1. The Illusion of the Perfect Life. If you had asked me a year ago, I would have told you I was the luckiest man on the planet. My wife, Sarah, and I met in college. We built our lives from the ground up. I'm a data architect for a fintech firm, a quiet, methodical guy who likes spreadsheets, routine, and our golden retriever, Boomer. Sarah was the exact opposite. She was a high-energy, charismatic hurricane. She worked in high-end luxury real estate, selling multi-million-dollar properties to tech executives and developers. She was the life of the party, and I loved being the quiet harbor she came home to. We had a beautiful house in the suburbs, great dual incomes, and we were talking about starting a family. I trusted her implicitly. Because of her job, she worked weird hours. Late-night dinners with clients, weekend open houses, sudden trips to view out-of-state properties. I never questioned a single one of them. Why would I? But looking back, the signs were there. It started in January. Sarah started becoming highly protective of her phone. She changed her passcode, claiming her firm required stricter security protocols for client confidentiality. She started going to the gym at 5 a.m. She bought an entirely new, very expensive wardrobe. And most noticeably, she became incredibly short-tempered with me. Everything I did annoyed her. The way I chewed, the way I dressed, the fact that I preferred a quiet Friday night over going to a club. I thought we were just in a rut. I even booked couples counseling, which she attended twice before declaring it a waste of time. I was desperately trying to fix a puzzle where she was actively hiding the pieces. Part 2. The thread unravels D-Day, Discovery Day. Didn't happen with a dramatic walk-in on them in bed. It happened because I am a data guy, and numbers don't lie. It was a Tuesday in March. Sarah told me she was driving up to a wellness retreat in Napa with 2 of her girlfriends for 3 days to decompress. I kissed her goodbye, told her to have fun, and spent the evening playing video games with Boomer at my feet. The next morning, I was reviewing our joint credit card statements online to categorize our monthly budget. I noticed a charge for an Uber. It was placed at 11:45 p.m. the previous night. The pickup location was a high-end steakhouse downtown, and the drop-off was a luxury penthouse building in the financial district. I paused. Why would she be taking an Uber in the city if she was in Napa? I told myself her Uber account was probably hacked. I logged into our shared family Apple ID. She had forgotten to disconnect her iPad from the cloud sharing. I didn't want to snoop, but my heart was starting to beat a little faster. I checked the Find My app. Her phone wasn't in Napa. It was pinging at that exact luxury penthouse building in the financial district. The physical reaction to betrayal is something you can't understand until it happens to you. It feels like your blood turns to ice water. My hands started shaking so violently I could barely use the mouse. I felt a sudden, violent urge to throw up. I didn't call her. If I called her, she would make up a lie. I needed to know what I was dealing with. I took the afternoon off work and drove to her home office. I found her old, discarded MacBook in a drawer. I guessed her password. It was still the name of her childhood cat, thankfully. I opened her iMessage app. Because she hadn't updated the OS, it was still syncing messages over the Wi-Fi. I sat in my home office chair and watched my entire life disintegrate in blue and gray text bubbles. There was a contact saved simply as M Developer. I scrolled up. It went back 5 months. M, you looked incredible today in that red dress. I couldn't stop looking at you during the walkthrough. Sarah, you weren't so bad yourself. Too bad we had to be professional. M, next time, we won't be. Book the hotel for Thursday. I read messages detailing hotel meetups, complaints about me. He's so boring, M. He just wants to sit at home. He has no ambition compared to you. And explicit photos I had never seen before. Then I found out who M was. Marcus. He was a 45-year-old real estate developer worth tens of millions of dollars. He was also her firm's biggest client. And crucially, Marcus was married to a very prominent, wealthy socialite who came from a massive old money family. Marcus's wealth was largely tied to his wife's family's connections. I sat in the dark for 6 hours. I didn't cry. I was in a state of absolute profound shock. My wife, the woman I built a life with, viewed me as a pathetic placeholder while she played Billionaire's mistress. When Sarah came home 2 days later, glowing and talking about how relaxing Napa was, I smiled, kissed her cheek, and asked her about the wine. I didn't feel love anymore. I felt cold, calculating rage. And I decided right then I wasn't just going to divorce her. I was going to obliterate her. Part 3. The Cold War begins. The hardest thing I have ever done in my life was sleep in the same bed as that woman for the next 8 months. Every time she kissed me, I wanted to recoil. Every time she texted on her phone and smiled, I knew she was talking to him, but I had a plan. I went to the most ruthless, expensive divorce attorney in the city. I laid out the evidence. The lawyer looked at me with pity. "Look," he said, "we live in a no-fault state. Infidelity doesn't matter when dividing assets. She makes good money, you make good money. You will sell the house, split the equity 50-50, split the retirement accounts 50-50, and go your separate ways. If you confront her now, she will hire a shark, and this will drag out in court for 2 years. I asked about Boomer, our dog. Pets are considered property. If she fights you for him just to be vindictive, a judge might order shared custody, or whoever bought him keeps him, the lawyer said. Sarah had actually swiped her card to pay the breeder. Losing half my life savings to a woman who betrayed me was unacceptable. Losing my dog to her was a declaration of war. How do I keep everything? I asked. The lawyer leaned back. The only way you keep everything is if she voluntarily signs it away in a post-nuptial agreement. But no sane person is going to sign a post-nup giving you everything unless they think they are getting a better deal or protecting themselves from a massive liability. That was the light bulb moment. I am a data architect. I know how to build a system, find the vulnerabilities, and exploit them. Sarah's vulnerability was her greed, her obsession with status, and her belief that I was a predictable, boring idiot. I decided to become a liability. Part 4. The post-nuptial gambit. Over the next 2 months, I completely changed my personality. I started acting erratic, stressed, and manic. I told Sarah I was having a midlife crisis. I complained about my safe, boring job. Then I introduced her to the venture. I had a college buddy, Dave, who ran a highly speculative, incredibly risky crypto mining and AI startup. It was a legal business, but it was essentially a money pit. I told Sarah that I was going to quit my safe job, liquidate my entire 401k, take out massive personal loans, and invest everything I had into Dave's startup. Sarah was horrified. "Are you insane?" she screamed in our kitchen. "You'll bankrupt us. We could lose the house." "It's a sure thing, Sarah," I lied smoothly, doing my best impression of a delusional crypto bro. "But the risk is all in my name. I'm going to take out lines of credit. I want to be a multimillionaire like your clients." I knew exactly what she was thinking. She was planning her exit strategy with Marcus. The last thing she wanted was to be legally tethered to a husband who was about to drown in millions of dollars of business debt and drag her credit score down with him. She needed her finances pristine for when she eventually left me for Marcus's high society world. A week later, I came to her looking devastated and holding a stack of papers. "My lawyer said that because we are married, if my business goes under, creditors can come after your income and your half of the house," I told her, looking on the verge of tears. "Sarah, I love you. I don't want to risk your future. I had my lawyer draft a post-nuptial agreement." I slid the papers across the kitchen island. The terms were brilliantly disguised as protecting her. "We separate our finances entirely. In the event of a divorce, she takes 100% of her savings, her retirement, and her car. I take 100% of mine. No alimony either way. Because I am risking everything, she signs a quitclaim deed on the house, transferring sole ownership to me. In exchange, she is 100% indemnified against any of my future debts or bankruptcies. I take sole ownership of the dog, Boomer, as he is a liability expense she shouldn't have to pay for." She read it over. Her eyes lit up. To her, this wasn't just protection. This was her golden ticket out. She could walk away with all her own money, zero debt, and leave the sinking ship of our marriage whenever she wanted. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, trying to hide her smirk. "I have to protect you," I said, looking her dead in the eye. We went to a notary the next morning. She signed away her rights to my retirement, the house, the dog, and any claim to alimony. It was a legally binding, ironclad, post-nuptial agreement. The moment the notary stamped the seal, a cold thrill shot down my spine. The shield was in place. Now, it was time to build the bomb. Part 5. Gathering the arsenal. I didn't just want to divorce her. I wanted Marcus to burn, too. This arrogant billionaire thought he could just take another man's wife because he had a black Amex. He was going to learn a very hard lesson about hubris. I needed irrefutable proof, not just texts. I hired an elite private investigator. I gave him Sarah's schedule, Marcus's name, and a $10,000 retainer, money well spent. Over the next 3 months, the PI built a dossier that looked like a CIA file. He got high-resolution photos of them kissing in underground parking garages. He got hotel registry logs showing Marcus booking rooms under his corporate account, with Sarah arriving 15 minutes later. The golden goose, however, was a video the PI caught of them at a highly exclusive resort in Cabo. Sarah had told me she was at a women in real estate networking retreat. The video showed her and Marcus lounging on a private cabana balcony, entirely nude, drinking champagne. But I needed to guarantee mutual destruction. I dug into Marcus. I found out his wife, Eleanor, sat on the board of directors for the real estate brokerage that Sarah worked for. Eleanor's family effectively bankrolled the firm. If Eleanor found out her husband was sleeping with one of the firm's agents, Sarah wouldn't just be fired. She would be blacklisted from luxury real estate in the entire state. I compiled everything: the texts, the Uber receipts, the hotel logs, the PI photos, and a flash drive containing the Cabo video. I made 5 identical copies. I put them in sleek black leather binders. The trap was set. I just needed the right stage. Part 6. The execution. The gala. In November, Sarah's brokerage hosted its annual charity gala at a massive opulent ballroom downtown. It was the social event of the year. Hundreds of developers, politicians, and socialites would be there. Marcus would be there. Eleanor would be there. And, as Sarah's supportive, oblivious husband, I was invited. For weeks, Sarah had been trying to hint that I shouldn't go. "It's so boring, honey. It's just shop talk. You'll hate it. Why don't you stay home with Boomer?" she'd say. She wanted to use the gala as a romantic evening with Marcus right under his wife's nose. "Nonsense," I replied cheerfully. "I want to support you. Plus, I rented a tuxedo." The night of the gala, Sarah looked stunning in a floor-length black gown. I looked sharp in my tux. We smiled for photos on the red carpet. Inside, the ballroom was dripping in crystal chandeliers and champagne towers. I spotted Marcus almost immediately. He was holding court near the bar, looking incredibly smug. Next to him was Eleanor, a sharp-featured, elegant woman who looked perpetually bored. Sarah squeezed my arm. "I'm going to go mingle with some clients. Go grab a drink, okay?" She practically sprinted away. I watched her walk straight toward Marcus. They didn't touch, they were too smart for that in public, but the intense eye contact and the flush on her chest gave it away to anyone who knew what to look for. I didn't go to the bar, I went to the coat check. I retrieved a heavy black leather messenger bag. Inside were the 5 binders. I had tipped a waiter $500 earlier in the week to give me the seating chart. I knew exactly where everyone was sitting. Dinner was about to be served, and people were moving to their tables. Sarah and I were seated at table 4, a prestigious spot near the front, alongside her managing broker and some senior agents. Marcus and Eleanor were seated at table 1, the VIP table, directly adjacent to ours. I walked up to table 1. Eleanor was sitting alone for a moment, while Marcus was chatting with someone nearby. "Excuse me, Eleanor," I said politely. She looked up, analyzing my tuxedo to see if I was someone important. "Yes?" "I'm Sarah's husband," I said, pointing to my wife, who was currently laughing at a joke Marcus was making a few feet away. "I believe your husband and my wife have been working very closely together. I thought you might want to see the portfolio of their recent joint ventures." I placed one of the black binders directly on her gold-rimmed dinner plate. Before she could open it, I turned and walked to my own table. Sarah was just sitting down, adjusting her dress. Her managing broker, a stern woman named Diane, was sitting across from us. I remained standing. The ballroom was loud, filled with the chatter of 500 wealthy people. "Everything okay, babe?" Sarah asked, looking up at me. "Actually, no," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it was incredibly sharp. The people at our table stopped talking and looked at me. I unzipped the messenger bag. I pulled out a binder and dropped it on Sarah's plate. It landed with a heavy thud. "What is this?" she asked, her smile faltering. "That is a comprehensive record of the last 8 months of your life," I said. I pulled out another binder and handed it across the table to Diane, her boss. "Diane, as a board member, I think you should review the liability your firm is carrying. It seems Sarah is servicing clients in ways that violate company policy." Sarah opened the binder. The first page was an 8x10 glossy photo of her and Marcus kissing in a parking garage. I will never, ever forget the sound she made. It wasn't a gasp. It was a choked, guttural wheeze, like all the oxygen had been violently sucked out of her lungs. All the color instantly drained from her face. She looked like a corpse in a black dress. At that exact moment, from table 1, a glass shattered. We all snapped our heads over. Eleanor had opened her binder. She was staring at the Cabo photos. She stood up, her chair crashing to the floor behind her. Marcus rushed over, looking panicked. "Ellie, what's wrong?" Eleanor didn't say a word. She picked up her full glass of red wine and threw it directly into Marcus's face. The red liquid splashed across his crisp white shirt like blood. The entire front quadrant of the ballroom fell dead silent. "You disgusting, pathetic pig!" Eleanor's voice echoed in the sudden quiet. She grabbed the binder, slammed it against his chest, and stormed out of the ballroom. Chaos erupted. Marcus stood there, dripping in wine, looking at the photos scattered on the floor. I looked back down at Sarah. She was shaking so violently her teeth were chattering. Diane, her boss, had opened her copy of the binder. Diane looked at Sarah with absolute, unadulterated disgust. "Sarah," Diane hissed, "gather your things and leave, now. Do not come to the office tomorrow." Sarah looked up at me. Her eyes were wide with terror and pleading. "Please, please," she whispered. I leaned down so only she could hear me. "The post-nup is ironclad. I'm keeping the house. I'm keeping my money. I'm keeping the dog. My lawyer will email you the divorce papers on Monday. Do not come home." I turned my back on her. I walked out of the ballroom, out the front doors, and out into the crisp November air. I took a deep breath. For the first time in 8 months, my chest didn't hurt. I took an Uber home, poured myself a glass of 18-year-old scotch, and sat on the couch with Boomer. Part 7. The Fallout. The Nuclear Winter. It has been 4 months since the gala. The fallout was more spectacular than I could have ever engineered. Sarah? She tried to fight the post-nup. She hired a lawyer, claiming she signed it under duress or fraud. The judge threw it out immediately. She had signed it voluntarily in front of a notary, and my business venture was technically a real LLC I had set up, even if it only held $100. The post-nup held up perfectly. Because of the scene at the gala, Eleanor ordered the brokerage to fire Sarah immediately. But it didn't stop there. Eleanor's family is incredibly vindictive. They made sure every luxury real estate firm in the tri-state area knew exactly why Sarah was fired. She was radioactive. No one would touch her. She had to sell her expensive car just to afford a lawyer to finalize the divorce. Last I heard, she is renting a tiny studio apartment and working as an assistant manager at a mid-tier retail clothing store. Her high society friends completely abandoned her. She called me once, sobbing hysterically, begging for forgiveness, saying Marcus had manipulated her and she had made the biggest mistake of her life. I didn't say a word. I just hung up and blocked her number. Marcus learned that the wealth he flaunted wasn't really his. Eleanor filed for divorce the Monday after the gala. Because they didn't have an updated post-nup, and because Eleanor's family essentially owned the holding companies that Marcus developed for, they legally eviscerated him. They forced him out of his own company. He lost his penthouses, his standing in society, and a massive chunk of his net worth in the divorce settlement. He actually tried to call me a week after the gala. He left a voicemail threatening to sue me for defamation. I forwarded the voicemail to my lawyer, who sent a cease and desist reminding him that the truth is an absolute defense to defamation. I never heard from him again. Me? I am sitting in the sunroom of my house. The house is fully in my name. My retirement accounts are untouched. The divorce was finalized in a record 60 days because the post-nup left absolutely nothing to argue over. I got promoted at work last month. I've started dating again. Nothing serious, just enjoying meeting people without the crushing weight of lies hanging over me. Boomer is currently asleep at my feet, snoring happily. Revenge is a funny thing. People say the best revenge is living well, and they are right. But sometimes, living well is infinitely sweeter when you know you meticulously, legally, and brilliantly dismantled the lives of the people who tried to destroy yours. I didn't just burn the bridge, I blew it up while they were standing on it, and I watched from the shore. Don't mess with a data architect. We always keep the receipts.